What's up, people of the interwebs? My name is 𝙍𝙀𝙎𝙊𝙍𝙀. I've somehow been surviving in Japan since 2016, and I hope you can learn from all my mistakes so that you can be thriving in Japan. So I was diagnosed with adult ADHD in late 2020. I had been living in Japan for 4 years at that point, and somehow after the diagnosis, the trajectory of my career, hobbies, and life just started to make sense. Would I have even moved here if it wasn't for my ADHD? I'm not going to go into my diagnosis story yet, but I will be talking about my personal experience navigating the Japanese healthcare ecosystem as a freelancer in Japan, how I found my English-friendly clinics in my neighborhoods, and how you can too. And I'm also going to explain how I got my monthly bill from this to this. I want to kick off this video by saying I actually used to be one of these people who did not take mental health care seriously. When someone in San Francisco told me everyone should take therapy, I used to roll my eyes. I thought it was for privileged, rich, crazy people. And I didn't want to think of myself as crazy. I thought it was too expensive. Let me just say right now that I was wrong. Again, this is not my diagnosis story. I'll save it for another video and I'll plug it here when it's ready. But long story short, investing in your mental health care, especially living abroad, is a wise decision, and it doesn't have to break the bank. First things first, you're gonna need your health insurance. There are two types. There's 𝙍𝙀𝙎𝙍𝙀𝙀𝙍, which is your employer health insurance. It's provided by your employer. It covers up to 70% of your medical costs, and is typically deducted from your paycheck. And then there's国民健康保険, national health insurance. If you're self-employed or a student or a part-timer, it also covers 70% of your medical costs, but your premium is determined by your taxable income from the previous year. Yes, that's what I'm on. I want to talk about the difference between therapy businesses and psychiatry clinics. We're going to focus on the psychiatry clinics because therapy clinics are usually run by psychologists or therapists, counselors. They usually don't prescribe medication, so they work with clients through talk-based interventions and various therapeutic techniques, and they have relationships with psychiatric clinics. But the psychiatric clinics are usually run by psychiatrists, and there are medical doctors that specialize in mental health, and they can diagnose mental disorders, they can prescribe medication. They also can provide psychotherapy or work with other therapists in-house or with other partners. They can just give more comprehensive treatment plans, and I've had very positive experience with a mix of medication, therapy, and psychiatric visits. So I'm going to talk about these ones right here. For medication, so certain meds are available in other countries and are not in Japan, or they might be classified differently. So Adderall is an example. It's a stimulant that's illegal here. Even if you have a prescription and you're just traveling to Japan, you're not allowed to bring your Adderall into this country. But what are your options? Your options for ADHD in Japan are Strattera, Intuniv, Concerta, and Vyvanse. And Concerta and Vyvanse need a special permission from the government. Because it's a controlled substance, those are two stimulants, it takes a while for clinics to even get the permission to prescribe that to their patients. But for the clinics that have taken the time to invest in that, this will take you about a month, in my experience, to get, once your doctor has deemed that you can benefit from something like Concerta or Vyvanse. I personally have tried Strattera and Concerta, and I have my opinions on both. I'm going to save that for my diagnosis story. If you want to know more information about what drugs are allowed or not allowed, or what upcoming drugs are being approved, you can check out Japan's Pharmaceutical and Medical Devices Agency, PMDA, for more information, and the link will be below. The best way you can reduce your healthcare bill is finding a clinic that is close to you, but also is not necessarily catered to English speakers. If you do a quick Google search, English-speaking psychiatrists in Tokyo, you're going to see a number of clinics that are catered to foreigners. Do not limit yourself to the first, second, or third page of Google search. There's way more clinics than you think, and there may be way more clinics that are closer to you and can give you better care. I've personally had bad experience with a clinic that is still ranked on the first page of the search, and I'm not the only one. If you do some quick searches on Reddit, I think you can find out who I'm talking about. I'm just warning you. From all of my research, I have realized that there are 3 kinds of psychiatric clinics in Japan. There are these clinics that I talked about just now that advertise they speak English and cater to foreigners. There are clinics that do not advertise that they speak English, but they do indeed speak English. And there's clinics that don't actually speak English and also don't advertise. So we're going to focus on this one because these are the ones that's going to give us care that's closer to us, that might be a lot more affordable. These clinics, they primarily service Japanese customers, but they're open to foreign patients. So many of your doctor's parents at these clinics have studied abroad and have decent English, but they don't necessarily post on the website. Some of them don't even have websites. So now lies the challenge in finding these businesses. How do you find these clinics? Let me tell you, there are a couple ways. First way, since it's the way that I found my first reliable clinic, is through subreddit, like Life in Japan. It was right next to the station I was living in at the time. I had an amazing experience with a doctor that had a Japanese website. There's nowhere on that Japanese website that he speaks English, but he speaks perfect English. I consider him fluent. I found him very, very kind, a bit distant, but in a caring uncle kind of way. There are other options like Japanese websites like ByoinNavi or TAPC. So if you're on ByoinNavi, you want to look for the tag 𝙍𝙀𝙉𝙆𝙎, which means that they give English care. For TAPC, look for 𝙍𝙀𝙉𝙋𝙍𝙆𝙎 and 𝘾𝙃𝑼𝙋𝙏𝙀𝙀. So this is also indicating that they do indeed service foreigners and have English-speaking care. So if you're still having trouble finding English-speaking psychiatrist or clinic that fits your needs, your ward can be a lifesaver. The way that I got my recent clinic is through this method. Don't hesitate to reach out to them if you're struggling to find healthcare services you need close by. Tokyo Life has an awesome blog where they've compiled all the foreign language hotlines of all the wards in Tokyo and when they're open. So there's English, Tagalog, Chinese, Korean, you name it. So go check them out. Let me tell you about Konoka, which is another way you can find English-speaking mental health care resources in Japan. When I realized that there were so many businesses like this out there, I decided to put a compiled list. Right now there's only 35 different options on there, but check them out. If I know what the English-speaking staff or doctor's name, I've listed them there. Just take a look at this list, see if there's something close by you that you can check out. If you know of any other clinics that are not listed here, please share them in the comments or fill out this form. I super welcome any feedback or information you have on this. So let's get into getting even more discounts on mental health care. Other than finding a clinic that is cheaper and closer to you, that take you that commute time and money, you can also apply for something called the 𝙍𝙀𝙎𝙊𝙉𝙆𝙎, and I think it means like independent healthcare. Let's just call it the discount slip. So depending on your income, it can cover up to 80 to 90% of your clinic visits and medication costs. Just warning, this will lock you into that clinic and that pharmacy, and if you wanted to switch pharmacies, you're gonna have to reapply for this slip again. Maybe don't apply for it until you decided that this is the clinic you want to work with. Not all clinics are willing to help you in my experience. Some clinics just won't deal with it. My past clinic did it 100% for me. I didn't have to go to the ward or anything, but my current clinic now, I had to request a letter from my doctor. I had to go to the ward office myself and apply for it. The documents you need for this will vary on a case-by-case basis on the ward that you live in and your job and your just personal situation. And just remember that this only applies for the doctor visit and the medicine, and that does not include any kind of talk therapy like cognitive behavioral therapy or like counseling. So the way that I actually got my counseling bill from 14,000 yen to 3,500 yen is purely from finding a clinic that wasn't targeting foreigners. I would say that the 3,500 yen one was 10 times better than what I was paying for with the previous clinic. A little disclaimer and say all the foreigner-focused businesses, I'm sure that some of them have excellent care, but I can see from the websites that there is a big price difference in what they charge and what I'm seeing is charged in more local psychiatry clinics. That's just been my experience so far. I decided to make this video because I kept hearing about, oh, it's so expensive to get therapy in Japan, like this and that. And I was like, actually, I don't think so. I want to know what your experience with mental health is in Japan. Yeah, let me know in the comments below. If this video was helpful at all for you, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe. I'd love to share more about neurodivergent expat content, so let me know if this appeals to you, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.